Hello, thank you for joining me today for Real Estate with Music and You. My name is Dr. Sylvia Black, licensed real estate broker with affordable homes and apartments. I'm licensed to preach and I'm ordained as a minister, and I have my master's degree in sacred theological divinity. I'm also licensed to preach and ordained as a minister, I said that. And I have my PhD, my master's degree in sacred theological divinity, so now I have my PhD in Bible studies. And I'd like to thank you for joining me today. This show airs every Wednesday right here on Time Warner Public Access TV Channel 20, Wednesdays 6:30 to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 12:30 to 1 in the afternoon. And also you can hit me up on Facebook at Dr. Sylvia Black. You can also visit me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is sblack3001. You can hit me up on Black Preaching Network, and I'll be giving you a website that you can actually visit, that you can contact me if you decide to, if you just want to, contact me or what have you. Okay? Now today I'd like to talk to you on a continued basis. I know I was talking about blood-sucking banks, but because of the holiday season, I just want to touch upon the summary of this book. And then the video book will be available through me, as well as the download of the book will be available through me. And if you'd like to get a printed copy of this book, you can get it at on lulu.com or amazon.com or createspace.com, and on a website near you and at a bookstore near you. This book is entitled, O Death, Where is Thy Sting? And O Grave, Where is Thy Victory? Which is written by yours truly, Dr. Sylvia Black. And I wanted to touch upon basically the last chapter of the book, which is Eulogy for My Mother. That's what it's entitled, Eulogy for My Mother. But I wanted to touch upon the book, just to go over the book, the gist of it. And because it's the Christmas season, and the reason for the season is to celebrate Christ and His birth. And since I figured that when Jesus died and He was buried and resurrected 3 days later with all power in His hand, that it would be very significant to talk about it during this Christmas season as well. Now, in my book, as I mentioned, I have been talking to you over the last couple of months for several topics. One, supposed to be, remember the death of Lazarus, which I'll read that to you, and then the raising of Lazarus from the dead. And I talked about death through Adam and life through Christ, and how Adam had forfeited the opportunity to be able to live eternally, and how Jesus had to take His cross as the repudiation. Okay? That we no longer are bound by the law, that God's law reveals our sin, that we are definitely indeed struggling with sin, but that we are promised life in the Spirit and the future glory of God. I talk about the significance of Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection, and how in order to know the power of His resurrection, we must know the power of His suffering. I know it's a little hard to understand and a little hard to believe, but a lot of times that's the way it is. And while you're going through the suffering, it's not easy. It's downright ugly. Okay? I talk about bereavement for those who have lost loved ones, like I have lost a loved one. I talk about struggling with sin. Okay? And then there's a couple of topics that I talk about that where I give my testimony, which you'll only find on the video book in the actual hard copy of the book. This is not public access material, nor is it YouTube material that I'll be talking about. But what I can tell you about it is that those three incidents, those significant incidents that happened when I was a child, at 4, at 9, and I can't remember what the other age was that I had. They were all, the first incident happened at 4 when God revealed Himself to me. The second was when I was 9, and the third was somewhere around in my teens or what have you, but I was a child. And these events, it appeared to look as if it was to my demise, to my termination, as you can say, that it was supposed to be, done, a done deal. But God used those events that looked like in the natural that I was going down, that I was going to perish, where I had actually defeated death in between those incidents, after and before, and during, of course, as well. And God used those events to bring about the good that I needed. Okay, the help that I needed to obtain, God was the only one that was paying attention to that, and He had to bring these events around in this way, in this catastrophic type of an environment. in order for me to get the help that I needed so that it would help me be a more productive citizen, and also so that I could, know what I'm doing in terms of making my own decision to serve God. Okay, that's why these events are significant, and they're found in the first chapter. Actually, chapter 3. I put them in chapter 3. So when you get the book and you listen to the video of it, you can follow along in the regular book. I can download it to you. If you like a copy of it, I can download it to any one of your devices. I can email it to you, the PDF file. I can also, to your phone, I can download it. I can download it to your iPad, to your computer. Okay, I can, the video can also be downloaded, the video book, which you can actually watch on YouTube, but you'd have to search through them. This would be in sequential order. So all you have to do is put the DVD in or click on a button and you can follow it in order. And it will have what I talk about in chapter 3 about how God turned my mess into a message. And these are very significant events that look like, I was going to die. It looked like that was it. Either I was going to be dead or I was going to be in jail for the rest of my life and grow up in prison behind bars. This is how these events had actually turned out for me. And then God used them so that I got the help that I needed. So that instead of me being incarcerated in prison for the rest of my life, I was just spent a small time in an institution that actually helped me as a child. Okay? And that's basically the significance of this book, where the idea came from. But I also wrote it because I wanted to glorify God. I wanted to let everybody who's listening within the sound of my voice know that the man that we serve, the kind of God that we serve. Okay, and then to understand and to believe and to come to realize. I mean, you may not realize it right away. It may not even register in your mind. But to come to realize and to understand that God is the only one that can bring us out of the situation, and no matter how bleak the situation looks. And let me tell you, baby, we will find ourselves in some bleak situations. We will find ourselves in some situations that are downright dirty and nasty. It'll be like as if you're graveling around in the dirt, the same dirt that the pigs gravel around in. And you won't even have put yourself there. It will be at no fault of your own. A lot of things that may have happened to you already as a child growing up. You probably tried to forget about them. You probably tried to wipe them away. It may have changed your life significantly for the worse. In other words, you may have changed genders because somebody turned you into that. But it's all up here. It's all about a matter of us making decisions. And I talk about that in my book also, about how my bout with lesbianism as a child. Okay? And I remember somebody asked me the question. They said, well, you like women, don't you? I said, no, I didn't make that decision. That decision was made for me. And I have a ministry for those, for gay people, I guess. I don't know how delicately to say it, but for women who love on other women and for men who love on other men. There's a message in it for you to let you know that the God that we serve is a powerful God. He's an awesome and a mighty powerful God. And what makes him so powerful is his strength. The fact that he does not impose himself on us. He doesn't have to prove himself to any of us. Okay, but he's there waiting in the wings, and when we turn to him, he acts mightily. Okay, and if you don't know yet really the true meaning of who we serve, or how God can bring you out of anything that you're going through, no matter how down and out it looks, you know what I mean? I can't, like I said, God can do anything he wants to do whenever he wants to do it. I don't want to bring false hope. I don't know what God will do in your life, because it has to be a series of events and a series of things that go along in order for God to actually make a decision. And, when God decides to do what he does, it's at his own time. And I'm speaking of some, if you're in prison right now, serving whatever sentence you're serving, or if you've been diagnosed in the doctors, that's easier for me to relate to because I've been there. But I also was facing, okay, see, I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but I could say I was facing the death penalty because of something that I had done, and it actually turned around and it actually helped me, and this is in my book. Oh, death, where's thy sting? Oh, grave, where's thy victory? And I just don't know why. I don't want to talk about it on public access TV or YouTube, but I just don't feel that it's appropriate. Because anybody can be watching, you know. It's not an X-rated kind of thing, but it's very sensitive and delicate. I also talk about the fact that we are hard-pressed on every side, yet not crushed. That we're perplexed, but yet not in despair. We're knocked down, but not knocked out. And we're persecuted, but not forsaken. I talk about how I share in his sufferings and his promises. We're struck down, but not destroyed. Our flesh is to put to death sin so that our spirit can live. Okay? We walk in the flesh. We do not war after the flesh. And see, this is what I mean when I say that, you know, nobody can turn you into something that you don't make a decision to do. Because I remember I used to say, you know, hey, you may be able to make me do what you want me to do, but you cannot make me become who you want me to become. You can't make me think the way you want me to think. You can't make me make a decision and say, I want to be like you. I have to make that decision for myself, and it's me who is in charge of that. What goes on up here and in here, I have full control of it. Okay, I make the decision who I hang out with. I make the decision who I love. I make the decision who I serve. You know, you don't make that decision for me just because you violated me or because you done me wrong. You know, that doesn't mean that I'm going to conform to your way. Because I see how ugly your life is. Okay, I see how miserable you are as an individual. You know, and that doesn't bring joy to me. I want to be like you so I can be miserable? No way. I talk about the walking dead, how God can bring us from shame to grace, how God remains faithful, and how death is the enemy, because it is the enemy. I talk about the defeat of Satan, how Satan has already been defeated. How we can, I talk about Paul and Silas in prison, how they praised the prison walls down. They praised their way out of prison. So what does that mean to me? That means that I can praise my way out of any situation, okay, that I'm in. I talk about how Jesus heals a demon-possessed man, how to shine brightly for Christ, how Jesus is the light of the world, what ways we can shine brightly for Christ. Okay, and then I talk about, you know, the fact that I talk about living beyond the grave. I talk about the walking dead, and I talk about what's that other topic? The walking dead, living beyond the grave, and dancing with the devil. Those are three significant topics. Dancing with the devil, you know, you have a party with the devil. Living beyond the grave, that's again making that decision to serve God so that we can have eternal and everlasting life. And the living dead are people who walk around with no life inside of them. They just merely exist because they don't know God for themselves. They don't know the power of his suffering, and they don't know the power of his resurrection. They tried to bury the sufferings that they've endured under the rug and try to mask it with, you know, just living their life and trying to thinking that, you know, everything is normal, you know, and that everything is going to be okay, that all they have to do is just ignore it and just, but you can't do that. That's like when the doctors give you medication for something, when you need a pill for the actual, the item that's afflicting you, but what they give you is a pill to mask it. You know, like in my case, it's a pill to calm me down and keep me calm, which works because I can think straight, but it doesn't cure the problem or heal the problem. Now again, I'm talking about my book, Oh Death, Where's Thy Sting? Oh Grave, Where's Thy Victory, which is available on Lulu.com, Amazon.com, and is available now. So you can get a copy of it. As I said, I can also download it to you. All you got to do is email me with your email address, and I'll download it to you, to your phone, to your tablet, to your computer. Okay? As I promised you, we're going to be talking about eulogy for my mother. In basic, this is what the book is basically all about. A lot of the things that happened to me, how I overcame death, happened as a child growing up under the auspices of the woman who gave birth to me. Okay? Now, The positive things about her was that she wasn't a bad looking woman. She was good, very good looking. She took care of herself in terms of how she dressed, how her appearance was, and whatnot. She worked hard. I think that was the most significant part of her life that I mirror, is her hard work. She never missed a day at work. She went to work every day. Okay, and I mirror after that because I work hard. I never miss a day. I'm a hard worker, like a dog on a bone, baby. I'm going to get what I want, but I'm going to get it legally, and I'm going to get it by working for it. She worked, she got a job with, she got a stable job when I was a teenager. And she was very ambitious. But at the same time, she was greedy. Okay, she wanted what she wanted at any cost. She had a grudge on her shoulders about what had happened to her when she was 6. She was very close to her mother. And when she was 6, her mother was taken away from her, which would have been my grandmother. Because she told me this story over and over again. I had to sit there and listen to her sad sob stories. And she would tell me, that they took her away from her and she would never forgive them for what they did. And she never did. She went to her grave with that grudge on her shoulders. Okay? She just never forgave them. She was close to them. She was doing her mother's hair. And then she got ill and she went into the hospital and never came out. But what happened was back then, when she was growing up, racism and segregation was open. Okay? And it was legal. Or I should say it wasn't illegal. There was very little recourse for African Americans to take during that time when she was growing up, and she grew up in the South. So society, I have to say society, or I should say, non-African Americans could tell black people what to do whenever they wanted, could do what they wanted to do to black people, and the law was on their side. When my grandmother went to the doctor, she needed assistance and she didn't have any money, and they refused to treat her. So my grand aunt, which I had the pleasure of meeting before she died, she went to pick cotton to raise money for her sister. And when she got back, it was too late. She was already dead. So the reason why my grandmother died was because she was black and poor. That was the bottom line to that. And my grand aunt had made a decision that she was never going to be like that. She was always going to have money in her pocket. We had a nice long talk and everything. And so my mother grew up with this grudge on her shoulders. She grew up with hatred. She grew up with the love of money. She just wanted money. She didn't care what kind of money. She didn't care who she hurt, even if it was her family members. And I suffered a lot because of her greed. I was there under her wing a lot. My sister was smart enough to run away and leave, but I was foolish enough to stay, hoping that she would change, trying to make her happy, but to no avail, not making her happy, only for the moment, putting a smile on her face. She had a lot of issues that needed to be resolved, which she refused to face. Okay, so they were not, you can't help somebody that don't want to be helped. Like I talked about in my book, pain has its purpose. Hurting people hurt people. That's basically what the bottom line is. Hurting people hurt people. And she was a hurting individual, and she lashed out and hurt everybody that loved her. Well, I should say a lot of people. She would either hurt you, she would lie to you, or she would deceive you in some way or try to get over on you. Okay, when she had retired from her job, actually like 10 years before she retired from her job, when she was about to retire, she was able to retire, but she continued to work. And then she went to the doctor and she developed a tumor on her brain. The doctors was able to remove it, but another one came back. Okay, I had a brain operation when I was younger, and my brain had to heal. And I still think my brain is healing even today. She tried her best to keep me not thinking for myself, not doing for myself, not, coming, because she was afraid of me, when I looked her right in the eyes, she'd have to take a lot of medicine to calm her down. And I remember looking in her face, and I said to her when she told us that the doctors had diagnosed her with a second brain tumor, and that the only way that this brain tumor could be removed is if it was, she would have suffered severe nerve damage. And there wasn't nobody that she could trust because she had done evil to practically everybody. This is my mother, the one that gave birth to me. Okay? And I'm talking about my book, "Oh Death, Where's Thy Sting? Oh Grave, Where's Thy Victory?" Okay? So for the last 30 years of her life, she suffered progressively from this brain tumor. The doctors had told her what was going to happen eventually. She refused radiation to try to shrink it. She just dealt with it. Eventually, it rested on her lungs. Her food, instead of when she would eat, it wouldn't go down her throat. It would go down her lungs. And she would have to keep coughing it up, coughing it up, and coughing it up. But eventually, it was going to shut down completely anyway on her, because that's what the doctors had told her. And the last few days of her life, she was still talking. You know, I should say the last month. Last time I talked to her was just before Christmas, the year previously. That was last year, just before Christmas. And then she died this year, February, here. In her bed. She was in the hospital. The doctors had diagnosed her with pneumonia, and she didn't want to die in the hospital, so she died in her bed. And my niece was there with her, but I didn't know. Nobody told me that she was that ill. I would have went and visited her. I still believe that her life could have been prolonged because she could have been fed intravenously some food. Excuse me, that would have solved the problem of her eating. But anyway, so she, like I said, and then they said that the reason why the tumor was developed was because she used to eat a lot of greasy foods. And so the greasy foods somehow had something to do with the mass that it was created on her brain. But she suffered from it. You know, you could tell in some of the pictures that her shoulder was getting tight, and she would talk funny, she would cough funny. Her breathing was becoming impaired, so she was suffering tremendously. And I remember looking at her when I remember she had told us for the first time that she had been diagnosed with another tumor. And I said, you know, this was the first time a revelation had came to me, and I said, oh wow, I said the same thing that you tried to do to me all those years is happening to you, only thing there's nothing you can do about it. And for some reason that brought me a tremendous amount of relief, because I know that God is on the throne, that He is not going to allow sin to go unpunished. And see, this is what I mean when I talk about in my book that I have proof that God can do anything but fail, no matter what situation you're in. He can bring a revelation to you to let you know why things are going the way they're going, no matter what kind of hell you're going through. He can bring it all to light if you want an understanding of it. And that was the first real revelation that I had before I even started delving into the Bible. You know, I would say, wow, the same thing that you were doing to me all these years. You know, she would knock me in the head and stuff like that to try to, you know, I guess shift my brain to the other side so I wouldn't think. You know, and she would always, you know, just try to keep me thoughtless. And then here she is sitting with a second brain tumor on her brain, which is going to cause severe nerve damage if she has it removed. So she had no choice but to live with it and die with it. So I'm like, wow, that's amazing. This woman she was my mother, and I loved her till the day she died. I still love her. You know, when this Christmas season comes around, I miss, because we'd always go to her house and celebrate. You know, now the table is turned. It's come to my house now. It's my turn. I'm not the eldest. My sister's sort of, and she's disabled. Not sort of, she is disabled. She needs a 24-hour guard, somebody in her house 24 hours to help take care of her. Okay, that's what the position that she's in. My sister has done some evil too. My sister and my mother, they were both in cahoots together against me. They did a lot of dirt and evil against me. And my niece also joined in with them, with the band, on the bandwagon. See, so you can understand why I say that some of these things that I can't talk about on the air, because they're very, very sensitive, and they're very, you know, they're just something that I can't talk about. But the bottom line is that, you know, my mother was introduced to God when I was 4. And she saw the miracle of God being performed on me. Okay? And yet she still didn't believe. And I do believe that that's what happens. God allows situations and circumstances He brings in our life to show us, to prove to us, and he don't have to prove nothing to us, but he shows us and proves to us on a daily basis. See, I'm God. Look at what I can do. You know, now come to me and serve me, and I will give you the same blessings that I give her. You know, and I think about all of the good things that could have happened as a result of family. She was married a couple of times, but all her husbands left her. You know, how can you do so much evil in your life and then think that you're going to live a happily ever after? It's not going to happen. Sin does not go unpunished forever. And I'm talking about my book, Oh Death, Where's Thy Sting? Oh Grave, Where's Thy Victory? And that's available on Amazon.com. You know, and you just can't do it. You know, so she did evil, and, you know, a lot of evil was done to her. The people who she trusted committed evil against her. She was not a righteous woman. She loved the sheep. Matter of fact, the words that came out of her mouth was, she's going to do all the evil that she can do so she can live as long as she can live. And so she confessed her life to the devil. She actually confessed, you know, serving of the devil. She made it a proclamation out of her mouth that that was going to be her destiny. She was going to serve the devil. And why? Because a lot of her relatives that she loved were dying off early. But they were dying off early because they were sinning. They were into drugs. They were getting shot. They were dying from AIDS, from drugs. You know, and she didn't see it that way because she wanted them to live. Her brother, one of her brothers, early in his military career, he died. You know, and then my grand aunt had some sons, they died. You know, so a lot of family members had died early. You know, and either, like, remember what happened with David when he sinned against God? Somebody had to die, remember? His son had to pay the price for David's infidelity. Okay, so somebody's going to die, and that's what God reveals to me. You know, why did that person have to die? So you could live. That's the bottom line to that. That person, she had to die. He had to die so you could live. Now, what choice do you want? Do you want it to be you, or do you want it to be her? Who's going to heaven and who's going to hell? Is it going to be you, or is it going to be him? Okay? See, these are questions that I had to answer. And I'm glad that God had asked me these questions because, you know, he knows when you're about to slip. You know. And I remember I saw a lot of my family members, my cousins and them that I saw that did me wrong. They was either in wheelchairs, or they were like they looked so old. You know, they were walking on crutches. And they were sitting there looking at me like, how old is you, Sylvia? My own family didn't even know how old I was. Because I look years younger than what I do. God has preserved me. He's given me beauty for ashes. This is what I mean when I talked about it in my book. I talked about the oil of joy for mourning, beauty for ashes, and spirit of garment of praise for heaviness. See, this is one of the these are the things that you can take advantage of if you serve God. Turn your life around now. Get a copy of the book. It's available on lulu.com, Amazon.com, and on Create Space. You can hit me up on Facebook, Dr. Sylvia Black. You can email me at sblack3001@gmail.com. And you can visit me on Black Preaching Network. And this book, Oh Death, Where's Thy Sting? Oh Grave, Where's Thy Victory? Is available on Amazon.com. And just email me for other details. So I'll see you next week, y'all. Holla at a sister. This is Dr. Sylvia Black coming to you live from Time Warner Public Access TV Channel 20. Wednesday, 6:30 to 7, and Saturdays, 12:30 to 1. And my YouTube address is sblack3001. Holla!